Bonjour, mon ami, les gens. Throughout the trials and tribulations of my life, I undergo the simple fact that what we, and most importantly I, search for in life, about 80% of what we want and search for, we're not really going to find. And especially when it comes to in the deals of romance. You know, you start looking for something and you find everything but just that. Disappointment is the main thing you'll be finding about, I want to say 90% of the time. I'd say about like 85-ish. I'm not a scientist. These ain't real numerical specifics. This is just an estimate based upon my experience. But one thing I've learned is that, no matter how someone is, in the end, that doesn't make that person special or less than someone, especially when it comes to the term that we use as hoe. Now, most people think of that term being alluding to that of a woman. When they think of a man, they're like, oh, he's a man whore. Well, I mean, in the end, there's so many different words that allude to the same thing. But I'm going to explain to you today why it really is not a bad thing. I mean, for one, when you take prostitution to the account, no matter how you feel about it, it's an occupation. It's the oldest occupation there is. They are typically referred to as that because they sleep with so many different partners. I say that because, prostitution is not exclusive to women. Men do it too. And, it could go both ways in that perspective and spectrum. But, that's aside from the point. But in the deals of social interaction with, regular human beings, not to say that they're not, but, people like myself, people like you, mon amis, and of course, my Jolies, the women, of course. You deal with people that are not as trustworthy as they may have seemed at first, especially when we're, in our early stages of life, in our early 20s and whatnot, or, whenever we decide to start dating, whenever we decide to start really taking a look at what's in front of us as we grow older. And when it comes to that, to me, being a hoe is not a bad thing, because the only time it's really referred to as a bad thing is when someone else's actions directly affect your life. You were led to think and believe that this man was the man of your dreams, and he's been cheating on you with your best friend for about 2 years behind your back. I don't know how you was able to not figure that out. But hey, that's just the way things are, and I've dealt with that myself. Quite a few different girls cheated on me in the past, led on to think and believe that they were better than they are. And I got burned for it. Of course, you can't really see the scars. I cover them up pretty well, but even still, I used to resent them for their actions. It was like, oh, well, they were hoes and whatnot. It's just like, nah, not really, because it doesn't help me get over the fact that whatever it was is no longer. And it made me really take a look at the fact that, what is the double standard between the sexes that allows people to think and feel a certain way about someone else's actions, when that was just it could have just been a one-time scenario? Or people really excluded to the fact that they did one thing, so that completely defines them. I beg to disagree. Now, there are some people that just openly do this sort of thing. They don't really care. It's kind of in their characteristics, is in their nature, if you will. But it doesn't bother me as much as some other people would. They just like, oh, well, they automatically label someone that they think they know. When in reality, you can learn all sorts of things from people. And then if you want to know how I feel about it, I'm not about it. I'm not the person that would typically sleep with a different bunch of women, because, I like to take them all out one at a time. But really and truthfully, it's because I have loyalty and I have standards that I guess today's standards are pretty much dead. But it doesn't mean that I should bury them along with the rest of society's mentality. I'm going to maintain it for as long as I feel that I should, until I find something that's right. Something that's right for me. And not just because of how you physically are, but who you are as a person. And I think that a lot of people miss that point when they go looking for the right one. Because in life, I realized that not a lot of people, it's relationships, a lot of people say that there's someone for everybody. I disagree. Not everyone is. It's not an entitlement. There's no contract that we come into the world and it's like, oh well, you're gonna find the right one, and you're gonna have babies together. No, it doesn't happen for everyone. Some people are content with being celibate, and it's not even out of depression. It's just like, it's just I've met so many different kinds of people. They're like that. It's just, I don't want all of that. It's just a distraction. I don't feel like being tied down. It's annoying. I got to have my self time, and fuck that other bullshit. And it seems silly until you actually talk to the people that are dead serious about this sort of thing. And it's nothing out of resentment or pride. It's just some people are made a certain way. Some people are not very sexual. Some people are very, vice versa. Others are very romantic. Others are not. But, in life, it's funny how what we say we want a lot of times is not what we end up with. Not just because of we were lost in the midst of the search. It's just that what we claim to have wanted, as opposed to what we saw for ourselves, is not what we clearly wanted. In the end, what we have is as follows. What we get from it, however, is entirely up to us. You can keep making the same mistakes over and over again, but a mistake is only a mistake if you learn from it in the end. Until then, if you continue making the same bad decisions, then they're not mistakes. It's just you being stupid. So don't fall for the bullshit in terms of relationships or just even in general. Whenever I refer to this in that manner, being a hoe is not a bad thing. If you're gonna be a hoe, at least be smart about it. But most of them are not smart, and as a result, those are the ones that are labeled out in the open. Some of them are better at keeping it a secret. It doesn't, it's all a subjective thing. There's no objective standpoint of view. It's all society's maintained viewpoint. It doesn't mean that someone is less than anyone else, because we're all susceptible and possible to be able to be in that category. We're all very much the same, but so very different as the game goes on. Au revoir. Merci, mon amis. To much an hour. The life.